What's going on? It's your boy Mekabre back with yet another Destiny 2 video. Sorry, once again, it's been a minute. Like I said, nothing's gonna be consistent moving forward. This is gonna kind of be when I'm in the mood to make some content. Lucky for you guys, we got a bunch of fresh content with Season of the Lost as it came out on August 24th, and your boy's been grinding just a tad, as much as he possibly can, but just a tad. So, this video is going to cover something more general, something that a lot of people are probably already aware of, seeing as how I am well late to the game, but it's something that I felt like I needed to talk about just as, even though people know about it, not everyone's making the, how do I put this, wisest choice. Before we jump into it, we're going to be talking about fusion rifles, by the way. Remember, if you enjoy my content, leave a like and subscribe, hit that bell notification down below, that would be greatly appreciated. So, fusion rifles, what is there to say? They've been kind of horrible for seasons on end. Now, we've had some pinnacle and ritual weapons in previous seasons, such as, the Loaded Question, and more recently, the Null Composure, which some people argue are absolutely insane and should not be forgotten without any issues, and they're some of the best fusion rifles in the game. Well, let me tell you, they were okay before Season of the Lost, and now they are amazing. Fusion rifles as a whole were reworked, and everything kind of more or less is a little different. So they're a lot better. Some fusion rifles are very good, and some are bad, and we're going to get into that here. This video, keep in mind, is not only talking about fusion rifles alone, but also talking about linear fusion rifles as one of the mods of the season. And the season artifact is particle deconstruction, and let me tell you, it breaks just about everything in this entire game related to linear fusion rifles and regular fusion rifles. We'll start off with the linear fusion rifles as there are less of them, and they are a lot more straightforward. With our regular fusion rifles, linear fusion rifles, that are not exotic, we have a blue one. It doesn't really matter, it's not worth the time, delete it. Next up, you have Tarantula. This is a world drop. Yeah, also, probably could delete it. It can roll with boxed breathing, so if boxed breathing ever gets a buff, it could be very good. It is arced. Corsair's Wrath is what I would put in second, third place, is another linear fusion rifle that sits in the heavy slot. It is solar, it came from Season of the Hunt, it is very easy to grind, but its best role is only outlaw high impact reserves. Threaded Needle, which is people's honestly favorite linear fusion rifle until recently, is from Season of the Chosen. Once again, very easy to grind, and you can get things such as Clown Cartridge and Vorpal. It is Void. There you have it. You have your three main elements. Additionally, and brand new, welcome Reed's Regret. This is the Trials of Saint 14. Yes, Trials of Saint 14. No, still Trials of Osiris, unfortunately. But it is the Trials Linear Fusion, and it is Stasis, but it can roll with Triple Tap Vorpal, and let me tell you, it feels incredible. I highly recommend you hop into the newly reworked Trials of Osiris and try and get one of these Reed's Regret. Trust me, it is worth it. Now, those were in order from worst to best of the legendaries, and like I said, each of these has a very different god roll, and it's really only safe to look at the last three, and Corsair's Wrath is only because it's solar. So just keep that in mind. In second, we have that Threaded Needle, and really look at just the top two. But second, Threaded Needle with Clown Cartridge and Vorpal is incredible. It is very easy to grind and farm. And same with Reed's Regret and that triple tap, and either Firing Line or Vorpal. Either of these hold on to. Firing Line is supposedly bugged, and a 20% increase to damage is what it's supposed to be giving, and it's only giving like 14.1% right now, so hang on to either of those. Now, moving past the legendaries, we have 4 exotics, and quite simply put, there's 2 heavy, there's 1 energy, and there's 1 kinetic. Your kinetic one is Arbalest. It is a very middle-of-the-road option for being a special weapon. It can deal a decent amount of damage, but past that, nothing else is special about it. You have Lorenz Driver, which is honestly the second best option on this list, as it is a void. It is brand new to this season, and with its buff of Librarian Sight, let me just say this weapon is incredible. You also have Queenbreaker, which sits in the heavy, which is not worth your time, and you have Sleeper Simulant, which is incredibly busted if you're willing to give up your exotic slot for it. Once again, really, I'd only consider using two of these, and that is Sleeper and Lorenz Driver. Now, moving past our linear fusions and into our regular fusion rifles. We have a large amount of fusion rifles at hand, and quite frankly, they all have something special about them. Whether it is the charge time or whether it is the way the fusion just works with its rework, you'll see that each and every one has its strengths and multiple weaknesses. On one hand, we have our rapid fire frames that allow for a quick amount of burst damage that pairs nicely with particle deconstruction, followed by a heavier linear fusion rifle. On the other hand, or the other side of the coin, we have high impact frames that are becoming more or less pointless just due to their absurdly long charge time. So, some quality choices that are going to start with, and we're going to work our way from what I highly recommend you pick up, starting with the best and slowly but surely working our way to some of the worst. Our second set, as you will see, are the exotics, and the reason they're listed here is partially because they're more niche than anything. They're not crazy good in and of their own rights, but in certain areas, in certain strikes, perhaps in certain activities, these weapons could be incredible. But let's start with the number one option, and that is rapid fire frames. Who would have thought? Rapid fire frame fusion rifles? No way. At the top of the list, we have Carson Coordinate. What? What fusion rifle is that again? Yeah, it's a random world drop. You can also get it from a season ago by turning in your Umbral Engram, but it is a solid choice and it can roll with Vorpal. The roll I currently use is led from Gold Vorpal, and I absolutely love it. Follow that by Null Composure, which is the ritual slash pinnacle weapon of last season, and it can, well, its roll is very good as well. The third and final rapid fire frame in the game currently is Zealot's Reward, which is the Garden of Salvation raid linear, not linear, regular fusion rifle. Keep in mind, this does come from the first encounter, so it is a little bit easier to obtain. All three of these weapons are very, very good, and I highly recommend that you try and get at least one of them. Following our rapid fire frames, as previously stated, we have our exotics that are equally as good. We have 5 exotic fusions that are just crazy. And with options such as 1K Voice, which, comes from Last Wish, so a little difficult to get, Jotun, Telesto, Merciless, and Bastion, with plenty of different utility options with our exotics for fusions. So 1K is obviously a DPS monster. Jotun and Telesto both are easily used with our brand new perk, yes, you guessed it, particle deconstruction, to proc that immediately and deal consistent damage. Merciless and Bastion are just unique options if you're feeling something a little different. Merciless, with its unique charge time starting at 1040 and dropping with every shot that doesn't kill, can be a DPS monster, and Bastion being a kinetic fusion rifle makes it unique as well. All 5 of these are very fun to use, and if you have any of them, I highly recommend you get them out and test them because they have changed a little bit with the particle deconstruction mod. Beyond our exotics, we have next up and in third place for fusions are adaptive frame fusions. You might be asking, what the heck? Why are adaptive frames in front of precision frames? And I apologize. During testing, I sat down and I had assumed precision frames were going to come in third, and matter of fact, wrote their paragraph as if they were third, only to find out that they are not third. Matter of fact, they most definitely are a lot lower than we thought. There's a lot of reasons that go for it, but really the big one is our adaptive frames are actually a lot better than precision frames, and no one knows it. Some of the worst ones to grind for, however, so keep that in mind as you're looking towards picking one up. You have options such as Techian Force, which comes from Last Wish. Keep in mind you can get the free chests to have it drop for you. You have Trinary System, which comes from Gambit. You have Timeline's Vertex, which is a world drop. And then you have Dreambreaker, which comes from the moon. Of the four of those, Dreambreaker is the easiest to obtain and easiest to farm, so maybe pick one of them up. Of the perks that come from them, none of them are particularly crazy, so the reason they're third here and not in second, and honestly, could be passed down the line just a little bit, but their damage is very consistent, and their charge time is fast enough to make it feel closer to that rapid fire frame fusion. Following our adaptive frames is a single fusion rifle. You may know which one I'm talking about, and if you do, put it in the comment section down below and tell me if you're correct. Coriolis Force. Yes, it's the only aggressive frame in the entire game currently, and it is the easiest to farm out of most of these weapons, and it's unique. It is very unique. But the reason it's unique is because of the way it fires, and that can be a little tricky to get the hang of. Once you get the hang of how to fire it, however, this weapon can be an absolute beast. It requires you to get rather close to your enemy and actually aim for their crit spot. If you can do all these things, trust me, Coriolis Force will be one of your best friends. Following that single aggressive frame, then comes our precision frames. Our precision frames have some incredible fusion rifles in the mix. With options such as Plug 1.1 and Main Ingredient, these two weapons and several others are very unique and can have some incredible roles. But here's where I have something to say. When testing this, one of the fusions I was using was Hollow Words. Now, my Hollow Words had Vorpal Weapon on it, and I had assumed that it was going to be quite the monster, because it was precision frame. I was wrong. Plug 1.1 is more or less the only consistent one. Main Ingredient is close to follow, but if you do not have a good Plug 1.1, then I highly recommend picking one up, as it is definitely just as good, if not better, than most of the adaptive frames, but every other fusion rifle that is a precision frame deserves to be in second to last, because either A, their perks are not that great, but B, they're just a little finicky, and that's why they're here. They have a large amount of potential, but they just don't meet up to the criteria. If you haven't guessed already, the fusion rifle class that is in last is high impact frames, as their charge time is just too slow. They cannot keep up with everyone else. And even though some of the best fusions, in my honest opinion, such as Exile's Curse, which comes from Trials of Osiris, or perhaps the Iota Draconis, which is the Season of the Lost fusion rifle, or maybe even Glacioclasm, which comes from the Dawning, they have so much potential. It's just that the nerf to their charge time was way too much, and now they're more or less useless. It's very difficult to argue bringing in a fusion rifle that takes, sure, only 5 shots to kill a Lost Sector boss, but in return, those 5 shots take, well, how should I put this? You can get off 10 shots with a rapid fire frame. That's a little ridiculous. So keep that in mind the next time you think, oh my goodness, this high impact frame is absolutely crazy. Now, why am I talking about linear fusion rifles and regular fusion rifles? Well, quite simply put, they're crazy right now with particle deconstruction. Their DPS numbers are absolutely insane, specifically the heavy linear fusion rifles, as they can roll with Vorpal, and that in tandem with particle deconstruction makes boss DPS easier than it ever was beforehand. As for our regular fusion rifles, things such as the Cardisan Coordinate with Vorpal are truly insane as well, and honestly are more of a DPS monster than some of the linear fusion rifles have been. So keep that in mind as these drop for you. Be a little more courteous to your fusion rifles, pick them up, put them in your vault, and use them as much as you possibly can, because they're going to be here for the next 6 months, and you got to deal with it. With that, I have nothing else to say, except for get back to grinding, your crazy guardians.